My name is Marcus Gilmore, and I love Jross-tv.
What's up, y'all? Sitting on the set with my boy Marcus Gilmore, drummer extraordinaire, in the loop hitting with John Pattitucci, y'all. We're going to talk to Marcus a little bit about his life and career and how you aspiring drummers can learn professionalism or gain knowledge to be where he is playing all around the world. So Marcus, I guess the first question is, who inspired you to play? What made you want to be a drummer?
Well, I come from a musical family, so music has always been around me, and I remember the defining moment that I can say where I knew I wanted to be a musician, let alone play drums, was actually this concert of my...
It's raining.
Wow. This concert that I saw of my grandfather's when I was a toddler in, where was this? Uptown in the park. I specifically remember the concert, and I remember seeing how much fun he was having, and I just knew I wanted to do it. So that
inspired you to pick up the sticks, or did you already have musicality built up in you that was pent up?
I would have. I think I had something that was pinned up, but I do remember my mother buying me a set of bongos when I was 4, around the same time. She just wanted me to have a creative outlet, you know, being a young toddler with a lot of energy and everything. So that was actually my first instrument. So I did that first, and then I played a little bit of piano, and then I finally got some sticks. Then he finally gave me a drum set after I convinced him that I really wanted to do it.
So now, what kind of time or preparation you have to put into being a drummer, a professional drummer?
You need to put a lot of time and energy. You know, you have to practice, you have to study.
Give young guys an idea of what to study. A lot of cats don't know what to study. They just play.
Well, I'd say study your history. I mean, it's great to know what's happening right now and where you think things might be going, but it always helps to have a good foundation, a good steady foundation of your history. So I would say study, well, at least for drummers, I would say study, you know, study the American tradition, study people like Baby Dodds and everything after that, but also try to study percussion from the East, you know, study percussion, Carnatic music and the South Indian percussion, study West African percussion, study, you know, East Asian percussion in China and Japan. I mean, just study everything you can. Study South American, study Cuban. There's so much information out there, and these days it's so easy to access that information. So I think we're a lot better off than some of our elders were when they were our age, because they didn't have access to this type of information. So, you know, we can click away online and just get all kinds of links and do all kinds of research that people couldn't do 50 years ago.
So young guys coming up, okay, they study all this stuff, they get the knowledge from that. Do you recommend school, or do you recommend experience, you know, on the job training?
It really depends on what you're trying to do. I guess it can't really hurt to have at least a little bit of both. But from there on, you know, you can decide for what you want to do. If you'd like to study more in school. I mean, personally, I've learned more outside of school recently, but I had a foundation of, you know, when I first started playing my drums, I started this program where I learned how to read music, which is very important, I think, to learn how to read music. So, you know, I did that, and I've been studying all throughout junior high school, and even a little bit in college. So, I definitely have that, you know, as part of my foundation. But at the same time, I've learned an immense. I mean, I've gotten so much experience, you know, just playing with people that I really respect. A lot of my mentors, I've learned a lot from them, and just learned a lot about life, just traveling, and yeah, it's been priceless. So
is it more intimidating to say play with a guy like Pattitucci than to play with, you know, I guess guys growing up? I mean, how's the experience different?
Well, it depends on how much you're aware of or how much you know. I mean, I'm well aware of Pattitucci's influence and what he's done in the past, and so I go into the situation knowing and respecting him. I mean, I respect everybody, but I mean, I go into the situation playing with him, knowing all the great drummers that he's played with. You know what I mean? He's played with, you know, everybody from Jackie Jeanette and you know, all the great current drummers like Brian Blade and my grandfather Roy Haynes and Tony Williams. He's really been a really important figure in the last, you know, few decades. So it's a little different, you know. I mean, he's very experienced. He's one of the greatest bass players. So it's definitely different than playing with, you know, just anybody. But I try to go into the situation with the same attitude. So.
Now, do you notice that most drummers just say if you had a fill-in, do most drummers play outside the conformity of a song or trying to do too much, or just play pocket? I noticed just like a lot of guys now just starting to play. They're just starting to let it go. What about you that where you can just stay in the pocket, locked in on what you're supposed to do? You know, do your job. I'm talking about like the discipline of being a drummer.
Discipline is important.
Right, but how do you achieve that?
Well, practice. I mean.
But see, you can't gain that through practicing in the basement.
You can.
Can you really?
You can, but you have to be disciplined. You really can, but I would imagine the best way to do it is to actually play with musicians, because people aren't going to want to play with you if you sound like you're playing with yourself. If you're playing in a band and you know you come into the situation with the attitude like I'm just going to play the same way I do when I'm by myself, then that's not very mature and it's not musical. So I mean, playing to recordings, if you don't have anybody to play with, I say play to recordings, and you can still do it, you know, by yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, especially if you're playing groove. Well, I guess all music is groove music to an extent, but I mean, if you're playing pocket, you know, what I mean?
Right, straight
you
pocket,
make it feel good.
Right.
You can't. I mean, you can't just abandon it. And if that's one thing that's dangerous, though, if you're playing with a recording, because if you're playing with a recording with a drummer on it, and you can just go off, and it might still be cool if Bernard Purdy's playing pocket on the recording, you know what I mean? But you know, playing with an actual band, when you're the drummer, you have to play your role. So.